YouTube found community, Beach Boys fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we're here today to talk about the Beach Boys Party, uncovered and unplugged on CD. There was a vinyl release too, but when this came out, I couldn't afford that thing, and it's also getting harder to find now on CD, let alone record. But this thing is fantastic. I'm not going to go into the detail about the making of, the surrounding release of the album, because I did that video a long time ago. But in a nutshell, for a real quick synopsis, the Beach Boys were kind of pressured for a Christmas album. Every band in the world always had a Christmas album. The Beatles had Rubber Soul, etc. It was like a targeted release for that market because you knew it was going to sell and people would give them as presents. So, during the summer of 1965 and into the end of 1965, Brian was really starting to heavily work on Pet Sounds, and that thing was nowhere near ready to come out yet. So, he was like, we got to put something out because there's pressure from Capitol to put something out. And so this idea of them hanging around with acoustic guitars like they were chilling in their living room, just playing music together, came up. And they wanted to make it sound real loose and real fun. And so what they did was they recorded the guys just kind of chilling together, playing guitars and singing. And they would do overdubs here and there. Maybe they would put bass on afterwards, or have a lot of studio chatter on top, which is the biggest thing of that album, is the studio chatter, making it sound like a fun party, like you're actually in a living room hanging out with the guys. When this thing came out, not only did it sort of, I guess they remastered the music, but they also took off all the extra talking and overdubs of the kind of party atmosphere. They took that off and left just the bare bones of what was underneath it. Ideally the music and some talking and stuff on top, just because that was just part of the original session. Which makes for a really fascinating listen. I've always loved the Party album because it's just such a bizarre album in their discography. Hearing them cover songs that they just loved, like Holy Gully, and then a couple of Beatles tracks. They were big Beatles fans. And of course, Barbara Ann came off this album too. But there's some great moments on the album. Like Devoted to You was fantastic. There's No Other Like My Baby is an absolute classic. They really nailed a fun time, but also made great music at the same time. So there's nothing throwaway about that album. A lot of people kind of toss it off as like, whatever. But I think it's a great album. And this album takes all of that and breaks it down into its absolute minutia. I mean, it's fascinating. It's an extremely cool document. You get 2 CDs worth of almost every recording session they did for this thing. I'm not going to say everything, but there's a lot on here. And the fun thing is, no matter how many times I listen to it, it's always a good time. You're caught up in just the atmosphere of them trying to create something that sounds loose. Which is really funny because there's so many times where they'll tell each other, "Hey, we're being too rigid here. We gotta scale it back. It's a party." They keep saying it's a party, And hearing them have fun, hear them goof around, hear them just joke with each other and rip on each other and tease, and the moment that they have to be on to record a song, it's like a light switch goes off, and they're just involved in that. No matter if they're trying to be fun or not, they know they gotta put out a good product. One of my favorite things about this release is this running joke of, "Where's Dave?" It must have been something that happened in a concert one time. Somebody looking for David Marks. "Where's Dave?" But they also add in, "Where's Glenn? Where's Bruce?" They keep going on with it, which I think is a lot of fun. Anyways, we're going to start this thing off with what's called the sessions. So, the album itself, we know the album. Basically, take off the extra party atmosphere and you get a really solid record. It's solid before, but now it's kind of more like a studio quote-unquote album, which is what it is, but you know what I mean. So that's the first 12 songs. After that, you get the rest of disc 1 and then all of disc 2 sessions. It opens up with "Let's Get This Party Rolling," and it's just a fun little recording of them introducing the album. There was a theme, there was an idea of them being hey, let's talk about the album, let's talk about the party, let's talk about, hey, what are you going to bring to the party? You bringing the Cokes? What kind of food are you bringing? You got your guitars? What kind of records did you bring? Which I thought would have been a cool way to open the album. And from there, they just go down this rabbit hole. You can tell Brian has an idea of all the songs he wants to do. And once in a while, he'll throw one out and be like, "You guys know this one?" And they'll kind of go from there if they do, which is really cool because I love hearing the band just gel, being like, "Yeah, we know that song. We got that, Brian. No problem, man." It's fun hearing the dialogue. It's fun hearing them joke around with each other. It's really cool hearing the songs come to life. I've always been a fan of sessions and hearing songs grow and develop. I would say the most interesting one for me on here actually kind of is Barbara Ann, which isn't one of my favorite songs by them, but hearing that song grow is really cool because we're so used to the track that we've known forever, and then hearing them get to that version is really cool. There's a moment where Brian kind of tells Dean Torrance, he's like, hey, why don't we sing that part together? And it's like, oh, there's the missing link. That was the part we needed. You know, hearing them work their magic in real time is fascinating. Ruby Baby is a great jammer. This should have been on the album. Brian does the lead on it. They just have fun with it. Good, chill, rock and roll energy. They take on the Stones' Satisfaction, which I think is real cool because a few years later they used to play Jumpin' Jack Flash in the early 70s. But this version of Satisfaction is great. You know, they got the riff down. They have fun with it. They're just rolling. They're not trying to be the Stones. They're just trying to have fun with it. Al doing Blowing in the Wind by himself is really kind of a unique performance. To get this solo performance from Al, it's fascinating because there's nothing like that from this era. That would have been a really cool release on his own. Like, you could imagine, you know, solo single, Al Jardine covers Blowing in the Wind. It could have worked. His voice is great. I mean, obviously he was a folky to begin with, but he's got that twang and he's got that oomph behind it where he sells what he's singing. You believe the words. And I really enjoy his voice on that song. It's funny hearing them talk about the sun rays at one point. They're like, oh, I hope they're not bigger than us. So that's really cool to get a little contextualization of like the era. So it's very current at that time, talking about the sun rays with their big hit at the time, I Live with the Sun. Hearing them work through Don't Worry Baby, and especially California Girls, which at that time was their latest hit, I think would have been a really good addition to add to this album. Yeah, it was already out on an album. Yeah, it was a single, but I think it would have benefited on this album. I don't think it would have been extraneous or too much. It's a great song, and it would have really worked. Hearing them like cover Dylan with She Belongs to Me, they do Hang On Sloopy. Riot in Cell Block Number 9 works very well, which they would of course redo later on for Student Demonstration Time, but man, that's a ripping track, and they do a bunch of takes of that one. They were really trying to get that one right, but I guess they just didn't really feel it in the end. One Kiss Led to Another, that's a super great song, great harmonies in that one. Smokey Joe's Cafe is a lot of fun. They do Ticket to Ride. I mean, it's a great insight to being a fly in the wall in the studio. There's a great part where Carl's like, does anybody have an ice bucket? My finger's killing me. If I put my hands in the ice bucket, it'll make my fingers feel better. It's just a lot of fun, is what I'm trying to say. Here's the back cover. Real simple because there's so many songs on this thing. And the old classic Capitol CDs there with the logo label. How does this open here? I think the CD case is broken, actually. I believe it is. Well, we'll worry about that later. Or maybe right now. Not later. Anyways, that's all I gotta say about it. I've wanted to talk about this thing for a while, but not go into a full-blown review because you really can't. It's just them jamming for 2 CDs and having fun. And that's all it is. It's just a great document to an album that's been overlooked forever. It's actually kind of a miracle that that album got the deluxe treatment, because that album has always been tossed to the side. Nobody talks about the Beach Boys Party album. So for them to do a deluxe album for this thing is actually pretty gosh darn special, if you ask me. So there you go. Beach Boys Party, Uncovered and Unplugged. I'm giving this thing a 10 out of 10 because I love being inside the studio with the guys as they're creating, and just you feel the vibrancy, you feel the energy, you feel them so on and ready to make something fun. And, you know, it's the last time you'd have something like this because after this, Pet Sounds came out and everything got a bit serious after that. So this really is kind of their last album, them having fun. And especially hearing all the guys just really getting on with each other. You know, they're really having a fun time. They're talking about their songs. They're talking about what they want to cover. It's just a good, positive, happy album to put on and just get lost in their world for a while. So there you go. My name is Giggens. This has been the Beach Boys Party, Uncovered and Unplugged. A bit of a mouthful there. 10 out of 10. What do you guys think about it? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Giggens. I'll see you guys next time. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.